Welcome to the SAP ABAP training program. Here we are going to learn about the concept related to data, data type, elements, data object, domain. When we talk about a data, it must have a characteristics, specific characteristics to be specific, and that characteristics can be called as technical attributes. Based on the technical attribute of the data, we can segregate the data into different characteristics. One characteristics can be put on any one of the data object. That is how the data object is defined. Data object occupies a memory space in the work process of the ABAP application layer. These data objects occupying the memory space contain data of specific characteristics or having specific technical attributes. Now these technical attributes must be defined or must be segregated into different types. So the technical attributes are segregated with different types are elementary, which are predefined and defined, and complex and reference. The predefined and defined elementary type we will be discussing here. Predefined is almost all the data types are defined previously. Previously defined means what is the length? Length in terms of bytes, not character, in terms of bytes. Initial value, what initial value it possess when nothing is allocated to it. Suppose I write that num1 with it's an integer. I didn't put any value to it. So when nothing is put, then it is called initial value. The initial value is 0. Like that you can see on the screen for different data type, like I, length is 4, F, length is 8, P stands for package, F stands for float, P stands for package, which is length is 8, DC float 34, length is 16 byte, DC float 16, length is 8 byte. Now, when we say field length, for data type IF, INT 8, DC float, these field lengths are usually fixed. However, the field length for N stands for numeric character, C for character, X for decimal, hexadecimal, and P for package, length is not part of the type definition. So when we say length, byte, it is defined in terms of bytes. So now a predefined elementary data type are non-numeric, some are there non-numeric, as it discussed C and X. There is also non-numeric called D. D stands for date. Obviously it will occupy the initial value as 8 character. T stands for time. The initial value as 6 character. And the length here is, see, it is carrying the 1 space. So if C is defined of the data type, so it will occupy 1 space if initial value when nothing is defined, or nothing is assigned to it. And if N is there, it is a numeric character. If 00, it will occupy. X stands for hexadecimal byte sequence. So any data with the different technical attributes, the attributes will be defined through the data type, and based on the attributes we will put it in a different data objects. These data types, non-numeric or numeric, the data object of these type are known as character fields. If a non-numeric, they are known as character fields. And we ABAP work with single byte, that is 8-bit code. ASCII, American Standard Code for Information Interchange, EBCDI, that is Extended Binary Code Decimal Interchange Code. ASCII is using 7-bit for exchange of code, and EBCDI use 8-bit for exchange of code. ASCII for 7-bit binary numbers and EBCDI is 8-bit binary numbers. Hexadecimal converts 8-bit to 2-digit hexadecimal values. So this will help for converting the numbers from any number to hexadecimal, so that hexadecimal number can be used to transfer the data from the present work process to the another work process or communicate with the external source. So this is a summary of the things what we have discussed recently. Another thing is a string and X strings. String can contain any number of alphanumeric character, and X string hexadecimal type with a variable length. Type convergence is also possible if we put a data on a data object which is having a character type, numeric character type, and we want to transfer that value from numeric character type to a numeric character type. From numeric character type to character type. It is possible. If we transfer from a numeric character to only numeric, then we must make sure that in the numeric character the values are there in terms of like 1, 2, 3, 4 in terms of 9. If the values are in terms of like T5, T5 cannot be transferred from numeric character to numeric data object. User defined elementary data type. So we have just seen that there is a user defined elementary data type are there and predefined elementary data type are there. So far we have discussed the predefined. So predefined are already available and they are stored in the data dictionary. User defined, if a user wants, he can also create. User can create his own elementary data type based on the predefined elementary data type and can be maintained centrally. Also we know that there are like elementary data type, this is a complex data type and reference data type. The complex data type made by the combination of other data type. Now we have understood the concept of data type. So if you combine the many type of character to it, like predefined data types are there, so you combine them, it becomes a complex, and you can use it for the data reference and object reference, so it will be a reference type. Now data element is user defined elementary data type. If you have a predefined data type, you make your own length, specify your own length through it, or you can make your own length data type and something. So then you can say it is a user defined data type and they are called data elements. So let us say I will say Z name as a data type, and this Z name will be called as L data elements. So the length of the Z name will be specified by me. So that is why it is called user defined, and can be stored or done in ABAP data dictionary. So you need to, whatever you define like Z name as one of the data type, you have to define that and store it in the ABAP data dictionary. Now to run a program, as I discussed, that you cannot run a program in ABAP just by taking the data from the database directly. You need to store the data from the database to the work process. As you know, work process has got its internal memory. The data from the database will be transferred to the work process. There it will be worked with the program, and after it is updated, down the data from the work process will be again transferred back to the database. So these are just a brief overview of the data that we can take from different options from the memory. We can take from variable, we can take from the selection screens, or we can take from the we can take as constant, we can take as text symbols, or we can take as literals. Literals we'll be discussing. Literals is a data which is not there in the database, rather you can write in a program and it will be used inside the program, and after the program is gone, this data will also go. So data which is there in the work process are called the transient data, and data which is persistently loaded in the database, like with a duration it is updated in the database, are called persistent data. So this is a broad overview of the things that we have discussed, that data type can be classified in terms of the elementary, complex and reference, and elementary has got a predefined and user defined. If it is predefined, we have discussed this, and if it is user defined, this is data elements in the terms of Z name and Y name. The data type, you can have a type convergence, and from the type convergence and data type you have got a defined type and length of data object, And then this can be declared by declarative statement called DATA. Data element can be help for search help, field help, help documentation. The detail will be explained in the future videos. And this data element, or another broad category, is the domain. So domain is also one type of, like, it is defining a technical attributes, but this domain is having like the broader sense of the data type. So you can have two objects of the same data type, but which are semantically or technically same or semantically different, like having a different length. So you can say both have the same domain but having different data type. Because when you say data type, one is having, I'm saying Z name, for me it is like 20 letters. If somebody will say the Z name 1 and he will define as a 30 letters. So it is like both having the same technical attributes but semantically they are different. So both are coming in the same domain but both are having the different data type. Now the data objects which can be named, that is variables through, and it can be constant. We can take our data type as a constant. We can take our text symbols. Unnamed data types are like literals, which are numeric literals, character literals, or string literals, not the string literals. Now data objects can be through variables and can be called from the parameter. मतलब वही data type को you can call it from the parameter, and if you call it from the parameter will be coming out in the screen, and the screen you can just put the value. That value will be stored in the data object. So these things we have just make it a brief and a small photograph of that so that you can understand. This is DEC flow 34, not 32, and this is the chart again about regarding the different types. And here data objects again, named, unnamed, this thing we have discussed now. So far we discussed about the general structure of a web program, syntax, rules, and keywords. That we will be discussing now, that based on the previous concept only. So that is with the concept that we have covered is data type and data object in this video. So here in the general program, just quickly go through that. General program, you all know, in the C program or any other program, there must be a declaration part, there is a procedural part. The procedural part have an event block, procedures, and dialog modules. And these event blocks selection screen and validate user input, that is fetch data from database and display output to user. That means the event block, it selects screen and validate user input. So that is the job of an event block. So event blocks and procedures and dialog model all are in the procedural part. These things will be broadly discussed. Right, and this is just a syntax. The syntax is usually like what is the ABAP keyword, then operand, and the operator. Between these three only we need to write up our program, the statement. And the source codes can have like declarative statement, modularization statement, database statements. Declarative statement, it declares the data object, defines the data object. Modularization is process the blocks, and database statements work with the data in the database. So these are the keywords. So just in a quick, this is a very easy program. So where data is defined with nnum, with no zero is there. So no zero will be reflected over here. I just zoomed it over here. And this is the status bar. It is showing the status here, ABAP line number 5 like this. And if it's no zero and without no zero is there, here it is this is not returned. So what we get here, the same value 6780, it is reflected 6780, but here it is reflected with all these zeros. That means the right hand side it is starting indented in the right indented. So the values are look like this. So same thing over here, with n is integer we have taken as n, and here we have defined 10. Again, we use a skip tools and skip. So just to show you what is a skip over here, these are very easy things. And here again with the different options, like if you go to the skip to line 2, what will happen? If not written, then what will happen? So these are the reflection of it. And this is a U line, so you can have an underline type of things. So this is all about the programming, and finally you can write a program like this and you get a result in this way, and we put the data over here, so you will get the data like this. So all these are right indented. Thank you very much.